Hi everyone, welcome to our regular session on how to use Activechat platform. Great to see you joining the event. And again, as usual, let me introduce to you the one and only Head of Customer Success at Activechat, Ina. And Ina will be talking today about website messaging with Activechat, how to engage with your customers proactively, how to send specific messages on specific pages of your website, and how to use it to build more leads, to get more sales, to get more interactions, and generally grow your business. Ina, are you with us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I love that one and only part.
Cool. So the stage is yours. I'll stop my screen share now, and you are welcome to continue.
Yep, please enable participant screen sharing for me, if you don't mind. And it's a pleasure to have everyone on board. It's a pleasure to have some of you back as well, especially after the previous webinar. I absolutely love the fact that you seem to like this type of format, so here we are. And as announced, I will be talking about the website messages and how to engage your users proactively, depending on what you know about them, what they do, how they do it, how active they are, and so on. And I think it will be the most appropriate to start with the thing that I tend to traumatize our customers with during the demo, which is the page visit skill. Now, if it will load up, yeah, here it is. So just to warn you in advance, it is not that scary as it looks, but I know that Halloween is over and it still looks like something from a horror movie. But what I want to do today is to go through every single block here and explain why it is there, what it is doing, and to what extent, so you could better understand how to set similar thing up for yourself, and also to feel more comfortable having a huge flow in your bot, because eventually you will end up having one as well, if not already. So let's probably start with a brief description of what exactly the page visit skill is. It is a system skill that is tied to the tracking pixel directly. So whenever the user comes to your website and you have the tracking pixel and the widget installed, the bot knows who the user is, what they're doing, when they came in, and so on and so forth. So the page visit skill is pretty much the first one that the user encounters in the bot. And usually the page visit skill also triggers the start skill depending on the parameters that you will set, as in how frequently you want the chatbot to pop up for the user, or if you want to pop the chat up for the user at all, for example, if they're registered or not with your system, and so on and so forth. So what I have here, I'm sorry, what I have here is basically the very simple setup. We will start with the send block that sends the skill to the reset. As you can see, it is cached in 6 different skills, and basically what it does, let's open it here somewhere, it resets the timer for every new user, so they will not get repetitive messages over and over again for a specific greeting. So every time the same user comes in, the timer is getting reset, so they won't get the similar message once again, but we will get back to that skill a little later on as we get down to it. Then right here, I have the source switch that basically checks if the users come from the website widget or Facebook. This has absolutely nothing to do with the page visit skill originally. It is something for me and for the support team just to identify people by where they come from, only for us. Same goes for the small talk trigger data block, which is a hefty trick actually that we've introduced, let's say half a year ago probably, based on the experience that our bots tend to be asked and treated as they are human agents, And we as agents tend to be treated and asked if we are bots. So we kind of saw that confusion among our customers, especially those that have not previously experienced chatbots at all or have not worked with our website. So we've decided to introduce the small talk trigger, which basically counts how many times the user triggers any of the small talk intents. So once in a while, the bot would say would come in and say something like, "Hey, I love chatting with you, but you know, I'm a bot. Maybe you have not realized that. So would you like me to put you in contact with someone from our team?" And honestly, it saved us a lot of trouble. And if you want, I can show you how it is done, but let's jump into the page visit skill why we're here at all. So the first block would be in the page visit if the user has been here before. We're using the seen before variable. You can use pretty much anything you want. The main idea here is to, at the very first, as the very first block, check if this variable equals or is greater than 1. Now, if it is not, because if the variable has not been created yet, it will have the value set as undefined, which also falls into this rule because it is not 1, it is not greater than 1, it is undefined. So right here we have the sequence as in the user is the very, very new one. First thing we will do after the check is actually set 1 to the variable. So the next time the user will come to visit, they will be already routed to the other part of the sequence. So seen before, yes or no. After they come in for the first time, we'll set it to basically yes. You can use it true or false. You can set it to +1 instead of just once to count how many times the user has actually visited your website in case there is something like, I don't know, you're the 100th or 1000th customer of ours thing going on in your world, which is also a good idea to get some coupons out and to promote your business, but that is entirely up to you. Then we have the data block that assigns the last seen timestamp to _now timestamp. Basically, the timestamp is the time in milliseconds that has passed since January 1st, 1970, 12 a.m. by GMT +0. And we tend to measure absolutely everything in timestamps right now. So every single event, every single trigger in database is measured by a timestamp. When the user has been created, when they did something, when the message has been sent, everything is in timestamps, and you can convert it with JavaScript or with some offline converter into a normal human comprehensible date. So the now timestamp will be displaying what is the number of milliseconds at this specific moment passed since January 1st, 1970. And we are basically assigning last seen timestamp, not a system variable, just a custom created variable to that value to identify when was the last time when the user has been to the platform, to further on calculate the time frame, how frequently the chat will pop up for them, for example. Then we are resetting every single variable for every single specific page, because what the page visit skill overall allows you to do, apart from just specify how often and when the chatbot should fire, it also allows you to fire different messages depending on which website page, like which section of your website the users come from. And we have separate skills for each single page of our website. And right here, we are just resetting the variables for them to 0 to use them later on to once again not trigger same message to everyone all over again each time they come to visit. And then we basically are jumping into the system variable that is called last page visit URL with underscores. And what it does, it checks the URL that the user is coming from. And right here we have as you can see, Activechat conversational AI pricing, Activechat certification program, Activechat order received, and checkout. So every endpoint basically on the website, or just appactivechat.ai, or products, Epsum LTD coupon, and so on. And with the switch, we're rerouting the user depending on the web page they are on to send them different messages. And here is where the skill reset comes in. Now, just to get this out, the timer block is absolutely not necessary here. We could use also the wait for block. This one was created, the skill overall was created like 2.5 probably years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. And it was just created before the wait for block had the stop button. So hence we're using the timer, but you can very well use the wait for block as well, because basically what it will do, it will wait for 15 seconds and send the user to this specific event, changing the variable to true, the page log pricing variable, which is basically a variable that allows the bot to send the message for a specific page. Then we will send some kind of a sequence to the user that are visiting the pricing page. And if the user agrees, we will go on with some kind of a lead generation sequence. We will set up a calendar event. We will send a follow-up notification. We'll create something in Calendly with a JSON block, and so on and so forth. This should be very familiar to you at this point, but let me know if I should go through every single block here as well, but it is just a lead generation sequence for us. And if the user does not click any buttons from here, from the bottom exit, we're changing the log to true and basically not allowing the bot to go on any further, as to not basically spam the user with repetitive messages over and over again. So this is something that I believe Hendrik was asking a couple of days ago, how to stop the bot from sending repetitive messages over and over again. For every specific skill, or for the page visit skill in general, we can check a specific variable. If it equals true, we will be, or let's say if it equals false or equals 1, it's also depending on what you will decide to put there. We will do absolutely nothing, as this condition over here does not end anywhere. And we will proceed in the other case to some kind of a message and change the variable into, in this case, it is page lock pricing true, which basically means that page is locked. So this is pretty much the very simple example. And this catch that we've seen in here at the very top, let me just switch to it right here. It basically resets the flow. So if the user clicks through multiple pages, let's say within a minute, the messages will not pop up, like all of them will not pop up within this minute. So the user will come, they will attend, let's say, pricing page, the bot will wait for 15 seconds, I'm sorry. And if within this 15 seconds, the user would switch to another tab, the bot will not fire the previous message, it will fire the new one. So in this way, we're tracking for how long the user has been on the website, basically which page of it, and we can track and send different messages and prevent the bot from spamming those messages to the user. And let me check, please, if I have covered everything in this specific skill. Yep. And after 3 hours, right here, we are once again resetting this pricing lock, page lock pricing, I'm sorry, variable to false. So in 3 hours, the bot, like if the user has come back in 3 hours after not clicking through, yep, let's talk, and after not going through the whole long sequence of lead generation, In 3 hours, we can send them one more message if they will come to the website, if they will trigger this sequence, if they will be on the pricing page once again, to just give them a slight reminder that we are there and we can answer their questions if they have some. Because obviously, if they have come to the pricing page once again in 3 hours, most probably they have some questions that need to be asked. And in this case, you can also introduce some kind of a counter, counting how many times the user has visited your website or a specific page on this website. So instead of using, oops, not this one. Yeah. So instead of using seen before equals 1, you can use something like seen before equals seen before plus 1. So with every new visit, the user would get +1 to the counter. So for the 5th visit, for example, you can trigger not the automated message, but send a ping to your agent and ask them and tell them that, hey, we have a customer that has attended our pricing page for 5 times in the past 15 hours. Why don't you just go and address them? Because it seems like they're confused a little bit. Let's help them out. So the live chat agent will be able to address them proactively, either by going to the conversation section and just clicking to this on the start chat button, or you can automatically trigger a notification and a live chat block to already start the conversation if, of course, someone is available at this particular time. So these skills, all of them, all 6, are pretty much the same with the same logic here. So in 15 seconds, if the user has not left the page, we will trigger some kind of a specific page-specific message. If they won't respond, we will reset it for 3 more hours and not allow the bot to spam the user with similar messages. Every skill here is pretty much similar. And then we have the bottom exit for the pages that are not specified here. So here we have specified pages for a certification course, checkout at WooCommerce, and app Activechat AI, which is the platform itself, and for pricing page on the website, but for Activechat.ai in general, for the homepage of Activechat AI, we don't have a dedicated skill. Hence, we are leaving the user with this generic lead generation sequence. And once again, here we have a filter that first checks if the intro has been done. The intro, in our case, you have probably experienced it a couple of times. I definitely did. So we're asking, would the user like to talk to their future customers, so on and so forth. A lot of questions. You can do as many or as few as you would like. Also some lead generation sequence. And after we check this, if the user has already been through this whole sequence, we will not trigger anything for them, just not to spam once again with similar messages. And if not, we will consider them a newcomer. We will assign the yes to the intro done variable. And we will go with the very first and only lead generation sequence here. And are you following me so far? Let me just check the Q&A section if we don't have any questions. Not so far.
Not
okay,
yet.
that's
Not yet. I'm looking at this, and actually, yeah, great explanation so far. So basically, the idea is here to be able to display specific messages on different pages of your website, and even on different domains if you have the same bot installed on different websites on multiple domains.
Yeah.
A lot of our customers are using this to be proactive, and this is best combined with using various attributes for customers. Like you can address the customer by his or her first name if you already know this. And another feature that I would like to stress out is that you are able to populate these attributes from your own website backend using our JSON block, integrating into your internal APIs and so on. For example, one of telecom companies that is using Activechat for customer service is using the authentication after the customer is logging into a personal area on their website. They populate specific attributes in the chatbot with customer's ID, customer's account number, first name, last name, email, phone number, and so on. And then they send different messages on different pages which are personalized with this data and which are different for customers who are already logged in, who are already like paying customers for the company, and for customers, for leads or for prospects who are not yet customers for this company. So this is another part that can utilize this custom messaging feature on Activechat. So Ina, do you have a lot more to
the second
explain
part
today? Yeah, sure,
yeah.
sure. Go ahead, please. And
you have it very big and scary, actually. Just for the context, this skill was created 2 years ago, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and I had no idea how it works. And it took me, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes to figure out, but I'm still feeling not really comfortable with going through all of this just because it is not my creation. And I feel like I'm just peeking into someone else's brain. It looks like brain, kind of. I don't know, maybe. Okay, jokes aside, now we go into the sequence that I hope you're not bored already with all of this, but this is not a lot has left. So we're going to the sequence when the user is the second or third or more times visitor. And here comes the mathematics. First of all, we are creating a variable which is called hours since last visit. And for that, we are subtracting last seen timestamp, which we define somewhere here, to we're subtracting last seen timestamp from now timestamp. So the timestamp made, let's say, a couple of hours ago from what it is now. As I mentioned, timestamps are the number of milliseconds passed since January 1st, 1970. So it is growing progressively. If you need the timestamp from the previous date, it will be smaller, even with less digits to count. Then we are going ahead and dividing it by 3,600,000, which sounds like a lot, but it is actually only 1 hour in milliseconds. 3,600,000. So basically, we are calculating how much time has passed since the user's last visit and dividing it by 3,600,000 to calculate the hours. And then we are doing the same for the days since the last visit. We are subtracting it from now timestamp variable, and dividing it by 86,400,000, which is 24 hours. Basically, we are creating the variable for hours separately and days separately to calculate and filter out the pop-ups so it won't spam the user once again. And we are adding +1 to the seen before variable, so we will have more than 1 with every new visit. And then we are going through to the switch block, which has the following. If the hours since last visit are equal or greater than 4, we can go to the user and pin them and say hello. And here we are checking if we have the first name variable. So basically the first name as the users are registered in our platform. This is exactly what Andrew mentioned. We're having your names in our platform, so you have noticed probably already that the bot addresses you by first name, or should be addressing you by first name. And then we are going to the randomizer. Now, how this one works. The _ random variable is a system variable that generates a random number in the range of from 0 to 1. So if you need to have, let's say, 10 increments, you will have to divide 1 by 10 and have the increments set in here. But it won't be set to 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 0.2. It will be something in between those numbers. So you will have to have it not like the sign not to equal or does not equal, but to greater or less equals or greater than equals or less than, because it still will be a randomly generated number inside this increment. So we're dividing it into 4 this time to basically create a randomizer for messages, just not to say a similar thing every single time. And we have great to see you again, nice day for Sunbelt building, how's it going, and hi there. Most probably you have got these messages not even once. And we also have welcome back for the 5th option here. So from 0 to 0.2, if a random number falls into that category, we have 1 message. From 0.2 to 0.4, 0.4 to 0.6, and 0.6 to 0.8 and above. And then we are once again getting to the switch that is checking the website pages and checking if there is a need to send the user a specific, like a page specific message or not. And same goes for basically here we're checking if we know the user's name. So here is for someone whom we don't know. And here's for someone, oh, that's awkward. I kind of went ahead and changed the names when we introduced the temporary name variables. Yeah, you have probably noticed as well that you have the temporary names in your system in the conversation section. These are stored under the temp last name, temp first name variables. So they are not affecting first name and last name as in registered. But by the time of testing, we kind of messed up, just to be honest, why the bot now addresses you as friend as opposed to addressing you by your first name.
Yeah, actually, that's my fault. I was doing that skill personally again a long time ago and didn't change this. So, but not a big deal.
It's nobody's fault. It just happens. And this is pretty much it regarding the whole setup. So just to recap and to make it a little easier to process, we're checking first things first, we're checking if the user has visited before. If they have not, the variable will be equal to undefined, so no, not 1, not greater than 1. Then we go ahead and assign the variable to 1. Then we reset all the variables for the counter visits to different specific pages. We set the timestamp to now to be able to basically get this timestamp for the previous visit. And then we check which web page the user comes from to readdress them to a specific skill dedicated to that page. And if the user has come here for the second or third or any other time, we're calculating how much time has passed since their last visit in hours and days, depending on your use case, of course. And using that, we are also sending users different messages, randomizing them with the _random system variable. And that's pretty much it. Nothing scary here. I hope you also get it because, yeah, traumatizing clients. I'm sorry.
Okay, it was actually quite technical. Les is asking, would you recommend taking that large lead generation skill section and putting it into its own skill to make it less scary? Definitely, and the
Yes.
idea, I'll take this one. The idea behind this skill structure in Activechat was to make each skill like not more than 20 or 30 blocks maybe, to make it as simple as possible. But we as developers tend to overcomplicate it, I believe, and when it's easy to go beyond these limits, and when you are building some conversation, it's easy to break these limits and build this really complex and large, huge, I would say, skills that you may notice in our own bots demonstrated by Ina. But actually, what I would advise to you, definitely, please keep these skills as simple as possible. It makes it much easier to understand, both for you as conversational designers and for your customers who will be using, and then maybe upgrading and changing and making modifications to the skills in the future. So I believe today we will keep it pretty short. We are 30 minutes in this. Another question from Les: do we need to remember the day, hour, million numbers, or is there a shortcut? There is you can store this actually all the timestamps that we have now timestamp, now TS attribute is in milliseconds. But if you do the simple calculations that Ina demonstrated, you can store this in attributes like numbers, like days or hours. So can you please specify what exactly you mean? Do we need to remember this? If you would like to use this as hours and days, then yes, you can add this as attributes. But if you do not need this, if you are okay with milliseconds, then you can go with that.
Basically, at any given point, I think I kind of got the question. If you have to remember this specific number, you got to just Google
okay.
1 hour in milliseconds or 24 hours in milliseconds, and you will get this big number by which you can divide what you got. And you can actually, in the very, very first skill and start skill as the very first block, you can assign something like day in milliseconds variable and hour in milliseconds variable to use that one instead of just remembering and constantly Googling the same number if you will need to use this number for some other data blocks for some reason.
This takes me to another hint that I noticed some of our customers are using. When they start the bot in the start skill, they use the send block to trigger another skill, which is initializing the data, different variables in the bot, different attributes. So it runs actually in parallel with the actual start skill, and it just sets the initial values for different attributes, like number of milliseconds in the day, number of milliseconds in an hour, and so on.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Was this a hint to use further on?
Sorry?
Was this using send skill? I'm sorry, just clear my mind. Was this a hint to the users, to the present audience to use further on? Because actually it should not be, because it overloads the system. No, and if you will have the send block only once in the start skill with, say, up to 30 data blocks, it will be okay. But further on, if you will be using, and unfortunately, we have quite a number of bots that are doing so, if you will be using this scheme for many more skills and for many more cases, it will overload the system a little.
Yeah, but we have we had the situations in the past, but then we introduced these checks, and for example, if the send block is used in timers, and timers are triggered very often, and there are a lot of customers, then it will trigger a notification in the system, and this bot will be disabled temporarily, and the bot owner will get a notification that there is something wrong happening in the bot. So it was in the past.
Conservative about that.
Yeah. Just don't use it too much, but running 2 or maybe 3 skills in parallel is pretty okay, and it works very well for specific tasks.
Or we will be communicating for months.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want to talk to me, you can just message me on Facebook. No need to crash the bot.
Okay. So if you have any other questions, we have like a minute or 2 or more to wait for it, and then I believe we'll get more questions for the next session. Next sessions will be less technical, and we will focus more on talking to customers, on building specific conversations, and also on natural language understanding, how to use the intents and insights feature together with live chat to make this proactive customer communication more efficient for the business. So do you have anything else for today, Ina?
Nope.
Cool. So then, if there are no other questions, thanks everyone for coming. It was great to talk. Again, this was quite technical. Don't fret. Next sessions will be more generalistic and more understandable. And thank you, and see you again in 2 weeks.
See you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.